What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Dad Bod Pod, a place for men to learn, grow, and live the healthiest life possible. I'm your host, Jason Priest, and I've got an awesome guest with me today. I think you guys are going to get a lot out of this interview. But if you're a brand new listener, highly encourage you to go back and check some of the prior episodes. There is a ton of information. We're 120-something episodes deep. We lay out the entire game when it comes to achieving optimal health for peak performance. If you're a long-time listener, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your continued support in our mission to make the biggest impact possible on the male obesity epidemic in our country. And if you get any value out of today's episode, we don't run ads. The only thing that we ask you to do is take 10 seconds out of your day, drop us a review. That is what helps grow the show and gets the show into the ears of more men who could potentially change their lives and become the healthiest version of themselves. So with me today, I have Dr. Darrell Misak. And Dr. Misak is a pharmacy graduate from West Virginia University who later became a licensed naturopathic doctor after earning his degree at National College of Naturopathic Medicine in 2000. Realizing the pitfalls of traditional medicine and pharmacy, Dr. Misak has searched for truth in health, which directed him to naturopathic medicine and to explain that truth through his 5-phase optimal health approach. As most of you longtime listeners know, we are very big on the term optimal health and optimal performance. So this is going to be an awesome interview. So without further ado, Dr. Misak, thank you for taking some time out of your day today to add some value to our audience, and welcome to the show.
Hey, it's good to be here. Good to be here.
I'm excited, man. So we chatted a little bit before the show. We got some things in common. Obviously, I talked about my wife is also a pharmacist. So excited for this interview, man. And, I'm going to ask you my only scripted question, which our longtime audience knows. And really, that's just to get your take on, really the dad bod and really just our place as a country in terms of health. Obviously, the obesity epidemic is a very, very big problem that we have prior to the pandemic. That is our big issue. And what we're seeing right now is a lot of people that are dying from the pandemic are either elderly or obese with chronic conditions. And so this is a very, very pressing issue in our country. I don't think that our country does enough to address it. So what is your take on where we're at as a country in terms of health? Because I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think the standard American diet, or SAD, would be probably the best way to explain the health of our country. I think if we really want to have a true health revival, it has to start with the quality of the food that we get and with agriculture. We have, I think less than 5% of our farms are organic, yet 40% or 30% of the market demands organic food. And if you understand, what I would do is I would go back and teach our farmers what's called high bricks gardening or high bricks farming, where you remineralize the soil to where you're increasing the quality of the food that's being produced based upon the mineral content. Because as we start talking, you understand from an energetic perspective of what we are, and we're meant to get our energy from our food. It's the minerals in the food that restore our energy, because everything that I teach is an energy concept of how you got to maximize, or basically you have to get more energy from your food than what you're consuming each day. Otherwise, you're in a negative energy balance and something's going to give. And so, but yeah, we're in a sad state of affairs. I mean, we could attribute so many aspects from susceptibility to this virus to the obesity epidemic to autism, to you name it. We could turn around and look at so many health implications. But bottom line, it's a sad state of affairs, and we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and look, I don't know that either one of us have all the answers. The reality is I think that, and we can probably agree, like right now we're in such a dire state. The reality is right now the projection is by 2030 we're at 50% obesity rate, and I don't think we're going to make it to 2030. I think that happens before 2025 because we're already at like 43% or somewhere around there. And I think this has to start with youth, and not enough is taught about nutrition in schools. You got these parents that are scrambling to, the soccer mom mentality, or even, on the other side of the spectrum is the low income families that may just not know. And I think the education process is very weak. It's lacking at the youth level. And I think if we're going to make any headway at all, the country as a whole, we've got a lot more pressing issues. And if in my opinion, if our country was so concerned about our health, we're pushing these vaccines, and I'm not going to say it's not a, it's not a need, right? They need, everybody that wants to get vaccinated should be able to get vaccinated. But if we truly cared about our health, wouldn't we be going a much deeper level and unpacking where the root cause of all this is coming from, which is the obesity epidemic? And so I love that you brought up the energy piece. I have a question that I don't want to forget to ask you, because you brought it up and you talked about the farming. Soil depletion is a real thing. I know that a lot of our crops these days don't have the nutrients that they once did. So what is your take? One thing that I recommend that a lot of our clients do, especially if they're not getting enough vegetables in, I personally eat a solid amount of vegetables, I would consider. But what is your take on greens powders and getting additional nutrients in to supplement? Because I'm not a big supplement guy, but I think there's a time and a place for supplements. And with soil depletion being such a real thing, what is your take on the greens powders and supplementation in terms of getting more of those minerals back in?
Well, I'm all for, appropriate supplementation. If you look at you have 4 pillars, I have a 5-phase. Phase 1, clean up your environment, pure air, pure food, pure water, EMF protection. What can you can't get away from all these electromagnetic fields, but you can modify or modulate them. Phase 2, test. What are you specifically reactive to? How can I remove your food sensitivities? How can I identify what you're reacting to, your burdens on your body, so we can address them? Phase 3 is supplementation, because bottom line, what we find is that disease comes down to either excess or deficiency, and so in reality, if we look at excess and we sit there and talk about heavy metal toxicities or environmental burdens or I've had people react to dioxins or phthalates or various type of chemical burdens and stuff like that versus heavy metals. But our body are unique, and it's a well-oiled machine that says, hey, if this comes in here, I have a mechanism, if it's a natural process, to eliminate this. But if all of a sudden that burden becomes to where I can't handle it, I'm deficient in something. And so what I do is I identify people's deficiencies to rebuild their soil so their energy efficiency goes on. And as you do that, you lower the total load on the body, you identify the specific burdens on the body, you get below this stress threshold. I have a threshold, and if I exceed it, I can't do all of this. So we get below this stress threshold, and then at that point is phase 4. You naturally start to detoxify. How many people go to different clinics just to do detoxification, from sauna to foot baths to colonics to whatever it may be? I offer all of them at my office, including hyperbaric, And but detoxification is to stimulate the process that has to occur naturally before a restorative healing comes. And my phase 5 is self-awareness, because even if you're below that threshold and you still have some symptoms, that's where that aspect of self and knowing, like, hey, something's not right. Where do I go back in this process and identify what I'm missing? So we're looking at that standpoint. So when you're talking, I teach that it's a process, not a product. Although, I formulated a product that I think that people love. But in reality, supplementation, whether you're using greens, I love moringa. Moringa powder is loaded with potassium and calcium, and it's, some people say it has anti-cancer benefits, but it's loaded with various forms of calcium that help to alkalize the body. And greens are great. These are great. I think some people, I think a smoothie is a great breakfast for them, depending on their digestive capacity. And so I work with the basics. I start there and I go forward.
I love it, man. I love it. And so let me take it one layer deeper, because I'm interested for my own personal life is, we're kind of, I kind of follow the Dirty Dozen list when it comes to buying organic stuff. All of our meats, organic, milk, organic. I'm not a big dairy guy. I don't drink much milk, but I do have 2 young children, and I refuse to load them up with hormones and such. So we buy organic meats, we buy organic milk. And so for the most part, we have a lot of organic stuff, but I try to follow the Dirty Dozen. And then in terms of skin thickness, like, I'm not going to buy organic bananas. I just don't like, I think the skin is thick enough. I'm cool without that. But things like strawberries and spinach, which usually top the list of the Dirty Dozen, I personally eat a lot of spinach. And so my question for you is, and maybe you may not know the answer, but with organic spinach, even with buying organic, no pesticides, right? So I'm getting a healthier option there with the volume that I personally consume. But my question to you is, with the organic stuff, we still have the issue of soil depletion. So at what point, like when people out there who may be on a budget, right? So say there's guys out there that are trying to decide, do I buy organic this or buy organic that? Like, if you're buying organic greens, you're still possibly not getting everything, all the nutrients that you potentially could get in. And so is that where you suggest, hey, like this is where greens powder could benefit you, and really, fill some of those needs that your body has?
Well, I'm always, instead of, again, going to a supplement, I am encouraging whole foods as much as possible.
Sure.
I watch out for oxalates, because I've had so many people come in who are doing the spinach smoothies on a regular basis, and next thing you know, they got kidney stones because
Right.
they've had mold exposures and they can't process oxalates very well, and they start getting pains in their body and they don't know why. So, but it's good. Bottom line, I tell everybody to wash, whether organic or not. Wash your fruits and vegetables, and get all your pesticides and herbicides are fat soluble compounds. Ask your wife, they're all hydrophobic and, they're fat loving, right? So what the purpose of those compounds is they go into the central nervous system to kill insects, or they get absorbed into the plant, but they're fat soluble compounds. So how do you remove fat? You remember that commercial, Dawn takes grease out of your way?
Yeah.
One drop. So basically anionic surfactants. And if you go to the grocery store and you see this vegetable wash, it says it says vegetable anionic surfactant. Everything is anions and cations, positive and negative charges in the universe,
Sure.
And as far as foods are concerned, there's only one food that's fully anionic. It's lemons. So that's how you can use lemon to clean things, and whatever else. But also, I have people use a little bit of lemon in a ratio of 1 ounce of lemon to 9 ounces of distilled water, and drink about 3 ounces of that after every meal to stimulate your body's ability to get energy to disperse and stimulate the liver and those type of things. As far as soil depletion, again, if I go back to Hybrex gardening, I can grow a zucchini and in my garden, and then it can lay on my counter for 3 months, the whole summer, and then I can slice it and it's still as fresh as the day that I picked it. Whereas
Right.
I can go to the store and buy an organic zucchini and leave it in my cooler drawer in my refrigerator, and a week later it's already starting to rot.
Right.
And that's because of lack of minerals. It's bottom line. So what people have to understand is it's the mineral content. So when I'm looking at supplementation, green powders and stuff like that can provide things. But the main supplements I give is understanding. I test people and teach them how to monitor their own numbers by looking at urine and saliva at home. And then you can test some variables, your Brix, which gives an idea of sugar regulation, your pH gives an idea of speed and the strength of your bile, and then you can get an idea of what foods are appropriate for me. But across the board, wash your fruits and vegetables. I use this product called Miracle 2 soap. It's been out for ages, and I put about an ounce in a 32-ounce bottle and then fill it up the rest of the way with water. And I spray all my vegetables or fruits in a colander, and then I run them under, pure filtered water until that soap residue is gone, to wash those residues off of there. Because you have to have a surfactant in order to disperse those fat soluble chemicals off of your food. So if you can't afford, to buy organic, at least wash your fruits and vegetables.
No, I love it. That's great advice. And so I guess we'll kind of shift gears here a little bit, because I'm curious as to, when in your introduction, I talked about you realizing the pitfalls of traditional medicine and pharmacy. So at what point in your career or your journey, we'll call it, did you decide that, hey, like, I got to do something better because I know I can help people at a much higher level than just following the path of traditional medicine? Like what warning signs or what things brought you to that conclusion to take that next step?
Watching people die, period. I was at Duke Medical Center. I was a clinical oncology pharmacist, rounding every day and just watching people die. And I'm just like, hey, we all have gifts, and my gifts is like, how does it work? So, taking things apart since I was a kid, tinkering on cars to this day, How does it work, right? And so I loved anatomy and physiology and biochemistry when I was in pharmacy school. How does it work? And so when I got to watching these people die, I'm like, isn't there some type of, these people are in a catabolic breakdown state. Isn't there something that we could give them? Can't we do some IV nutrients or IV B vitamins or IV vitamin C that'll slow this process, and so we can support them while we're giving them all this chemo? And they're like, well, you know, Duke, it was one of the top 3 cancer treatment centers in America at that point when I was there back in the 90s. And they're like, nope, there's no research on that. Well, that's before I have 5 kids. I go to the library. This is before Google. So you have to get out those great big mesh term books and go searching and you know, for mesh terms and finding terms, and then leading you to periodicals. And I started pulling articles from the 1950s and 60s on literally, you know, B vitamins and things with thiamine and things with vitamin C and arresting and slowing down cancer growth and rates and helping. And they're like, oh, that's been refuted. It's never been refuted. I never found anything about it not being that it didn't work. It's just not part of their agenda of, you know, using medicine. And then I turned around and I had clients when you know, in the hospital, when people were asking about natural therapies, the doctor, you know, rounding doctor say, hey, Darrell's into that stuff. He'll come back and talk to you. And then these people go and they pull out a suitcase and like, is this going to be on my chart? I'm like, no, if you don't want it to be, this is a, you know, private conversation. And they pull out this suitcase of mushroom extracts and all of these supplements that they were taking and be like, I know this is helping me, but I'm in a drug study and I can't say that I'm taking this stuff, but this is what I think is keeping me alive. Does it interact with my food or my chemo? And I'm like, hell yeah, it does. We just don't know how. Yeah. You know, that's early 1990s was before drug, nutrient, herbal interactions. All of that stuff was even being looked at. You know, so none of that research was out there at that point. And I'm like, listen, you know, I can't sit here and go against you, but I can't tell you, you know, if you're processing things and we're watching your chemistry every day, if we see something of concern, they're going to bring it up and say, we don't know why this is happening, but these are people who are responding better to therapy. And even back then, you know, patients, when they did those studies, they said like 80% of clients would take a natural substance and not tell their doctors. Remember those kind of stats?
Yeah.
So that's what drove me into it. And I just kept going down a rabbit hole. How does it work? How does it work? Which led me to Tesla and Einstein. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you have to think in terms of frequency and vibration. Tesla. Do you want to understand energy? You have to say that all things are relative. So energy is the same thing as matter. So we are a matter, physical. So so what is that energy? It's heat and electricity. Well, how do we join it? Or how do we, you know, make that up? And I came down to more, then I learned about Dr. Carrie Reams and the aspects of biological ionization, start applying these principles, and now I teach them. If you go to docmisak.com, I have all these podcasts. I have written articles for Naturopathic Doctor News and Review, and I teach this bioelectric concept of how we work and how to maximize energy efficiency through diet. It's diet number one. Supplements are mostly mineral based upon your chemistry, and then basic vitamins. And I watch miracles happen. You know, it's not about feeding, you know, just let me fix my adrenals, let me fix my thyroid. There's a process that needs to occur. And what I've done is found an incredible, beautiful way of identifying that process and teaching people how to do the same.
I love it, man. And the reality is this, and we can sit here and hash out traditional American medicine all day long, but we are, you know, as a society, we're all about medications, right? Like put a Band-Aid here and a Band-Aid there. And to your point, we keep coming back to diet. Our company hates the word diet because it's one of those, we feel like diet is like the term diet gets so misconstrued. It's like, it's a temporary fix, right? You want to lose 50, 60 pounds, however much weight, whatever. You know, I'm going to go on a diet. But when you use the word diet, you're just talking about the foods that we eat. The reality is food is fuel, and we are what we eat. And there's a reason. I don't know what the book is, right? But that's one of the oldest sayings in the book. We are what we eat. And if more people would subscribe to that and more people would buy into the fact that nutrition is the root of most of our issues, If you fix your nutrition, I don't care. It doesn't need to be perfect, but if you can get it a lot closer to perfect than where you're at right now, if you are struggling, it can take care of so many things. I mean, that is, I hate that we are so medication happy, right? You go in, and nowadays, and you know this, you go into the doctor, you go in to see your general practitioner or whatever, whoever your doctor is, they got about 10 minutes with you, if that, 7 minutes. And what are your issues and how can we fix it? All right, your issues are this. Here's 3 meds that are going to fix it. And I hate that. I hate that mentality, because I feel like that is just feeding into the obesity epidemic. People go in, you're overweight, you're out of shape. You go in and you're like, oh, my blood pressure and cholesterol were high. Doc gave me 2 meds. Now they're fixed. I'm just going to keep going down the road that I'm going, because now my issues are fixed. And it's this mentality that just it becomes toxic over time. And do you agree with that? I mean, is that a similar thing?
Completely. Yeah. I mean, I can sit there, if you look at what I teach and understanding that when we're testing these chemical variables, nobody has disease. What you have is an imbalance, and it's a connection between both Eastern and Western philosophy. And I explain, hey, sugar regulation parallels oxygen availability. Low, high sugars, boom, you're going to be sore, tired, achy, headaches, whatever, lack of oxygen, get where it needs to be. pH regulates speed and the ability to assimilate, because chemistry is dependent on pH, whether how fast it goes. So you're going to see whether certain minerals are available based upon pH. And if the pH is low, things are going too fast, and so you don't absorb your nutrients. You get diarrhea. There's certain symptoms that go along with it. pH is too slow, constipation, auto intoxication, cell debris. Gives us an idea of cell turnover and how well our body is getting rid of the cells that they're supposed to, because you have to be able to detoxify adequately. Conductivity of the urine gives us an idea of salts and the thickness of body fluids. And so when it goes up, it's like static electricity in you. There's too much energy going through the system, so you get breakdown of nerves and smooth muscles. So you can predict people having numbness and tingling or anxiety and all these symptoms. And then nitrates, we look at nitrates and ammonia nitrates, give us an idea of protein building capacity versus protein breakdown. Am I digesting my food, or am I breaking down my body? And if I'm not digesting my food, you're going to see this aspect of toxic nitrates that causes our heart to pound, and it's associated with magnesium and potassium deficiency. So you can turn around and, based upon those nitrates, and predict symptoms. And so I look at a set of numbers, and I don't even look at a person's chart, and I say, you could have this, this, and this. You might have your left shoulder bothering you because you're drawing energy from that part of your body. It blows people away.
No doubt.
And I'm like, it's not a disease, it's an imbalance. These numbers tell you where your symptoms are coming from and what you're deficient in. So it's really a different aspect of how to look at the aspects of chemistry. But I mean, the main thing, one of the other things that I did is use that compounding pharmacy aspect. And, we're talking about optimal health, right?
Yeah.
So everybody wants anti-aging. Well, 2009, Nobel Prize in Medicine, 3 physiologists discovered an enzyme called telomerase. And as telomerase is stimulated, it keeps your telomeres at the end of your DNA from shortening. Okay, so, and as they shorten, you age. So they had these mice, and they prematurely aged them to be in their 90s, white hair, cataracts, liver or kidney failure, and they stimulated this enzyme, and they reverse aged them. Their hair turned black, their kidneys got better, their cataracts went away, their physical ability returned, and their brains grew 25%. Huge. You're talking like anti-aging. So in 2014, I'm like, okay, how do you stimulate this enzyme? And now I got Google, and I don't have to use those big things.
Yeah, what do we do before Google, right?
Exactly. And so I went and pulled hundreds of abstracts, medical abstracts on telomerase. And next thing you know, I start seeing these natural substances pop up. And for that pharmacist in me, turn around and say, wait a minute. And the naturopath in me says, wait, I can turn around and use these herbs that have telomerase activity and blend them in a way that functionally support various organ systems. So astragalus, #1 herb that's ever been shown to have telomerase activity, and its extracts called cycloastragenol and astragaloside 4. But, to stimulate telomerase activity, again, let's prevent aging. But what's astragalus do? Adrenal support, immune support. It's anti-cancer historically. All these wonderful benefits. Elderberry, wow, resveratrol that's in there. Again, telomerase activity, yet immune support. Again, green tea extract. Again, antioxidant, ellagic acids and those type of things. But green tea has shown telomerase activity. And then ginkgo, wow, ginkgo's shown telomerase activity. What does it do? Let's get more blood flow to the brain. And hey, if telomerase, if these rats grew their brains, why can't we make sure we get adequate circulation there? And then purslane, that weed that people pull out of their yard, they should be throwing it in their salads because of the amount of omega-3 fatty acids that's in there, But fatty acids help to take your cell membranes and make them fluidic, so nutrients can go in and out. Plus, we're feeding our brains again. And so I put purslane, and then an herb called cynomorium. Cynomorium, again, all of these have shown telomerase activity, but cynomorium is called the elixir of life in Chinese medicine. It's a yang tonic for sexual vitality, And then the last things I put in there, well, one more, milk thistle. We know about milk thistle, again, telomerase, but for the liver to support everything. And then that bioelectric concept, I put a little bit of calcium phosphate, because when you go back to ashes, 84% of that ash is going to be calcium phosphate because of your bones. And calcium regulates the ability of all minerals to go in and out of your cell. That's why when you measure EEGs or EKGs or EMGs and you're looking at electrical activity in the body, it's a sodium and potassium impetus that starts that chemical reaction that goes through calcium channels. Remember that stuff, all that electrical stuff? It's all mineral based. And so I put some calcium phosphate in there, and I put lemon, because lemon is at 100% anionic. Let's disperse. So what it came together was a product called Vitalometry, Vitelometry. And I tell people, if they go to vitalometry.com, you can find and learn more about it there. You can go to my Doc Misak and learn more. And in all honesty, I can turn around and I'll do a discount code DADBOD, DADBOD. And if anybody who turns around and uses that discount code for seeing us on your show, we'll give them 10% off on trying the product.
Cool.
And the best testimony, because we can't put testimonies online because you can't make claims, is to go to the best place to do is go to Amazon. And if you look up Vitalometry on Amazon, look at the reviews, and look what people say. But we've had people say they get their sex life back in their 70s. We've had people have their hair grow back in dark. We've had people have their hair grow back in. We've had people, say their chronic fatigue issues are going. But the number one thing is energy and mental clarity. We have people who are just like, man, my work was wearing me down and this product gets me through it. So it's and then my best testimony is what led to my next product called Canine Telemetry for dogs, because I had a 13-year-old lab and she was getting kidney failure and just peeing all over the house because she couldn't get there, getting cataract. She started walking outside of the yard, so she was getting a little bit senile. And my wife was ready to put her down. And I said, well, let me bring something home. And I went and mixed my ingredients from Vitalometry with some hydrolyzed collagen. And within a week, she's acting like a puppy. And my dog ended up living for another 2 years.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Able to go up and down the stairs and whatever else. So we just released Canine Telemetry in January, and it's just been a wonderful product that, but again, it's not about a product, it's a process. But if you look at the herbs and what I put in there, I'm supporting processes to work more effectively in a synergistic way.
Sure. Well, and look, okay, so you gave a lot of great information about your products and what they can do. So my question, or let's come back to the root cause, right? Because I'm very big about addressing the root cause. So for those of you guys out there who are listening right now who are like, man, like what he just said sounds like I want something in my life. A lot of our listeners, they're struggling with their health. And we go back to the root cause, which is what we kicked off the show talking about, and that's nutrition. And so what you guys have to realize is for anybody out there interested in this, and again, he's going to give you guys a 10% off code to try it using DadBot, and we'll get all that in the show notes. But let's come back to full circle here, because the reality is for anybody that's out there thinking about trying this, they're like, yeah, that sounds great. I want all those benefits that you mentioned. You still have to address the root cause. You cannot continue with the SAD that you mentioned, the standard American diet, add your product in and expect miracles to happen, because if your nutrition is still shit, you're probably still going to feel like shit. Would you agree?
Yeah, exactly. You have to, that's where if you go back and I talked about those 5 phases, clean up your environment, you know, air, food, water, EMF, identify your food's triggers. One man's food's another man's poison. And if people don't know and they don't go and get tested, I do electrodermal testing. Some people do immune globulin testing. There's various ways to test for food sensitivities. But if you don't know and you know your blood type, I put people on an elimination diet based upon their blood type. You go up and you look at that blood type diet, and then you say, okay, the foods that it says not to eat, I'm going to stay away from those foods for 1 month, 4 weeks, and then bring them back in every 4 to 5 days. And you will learn, oh my God, I should never eat that food. I find so many people reactive to tomatoes and peppers. I find most people react to wheat, you know, but they can tolerate spelt. You know, so it doesn't have to be gluten-free, because spelt is just a delicious grain and tastes like that wheat. So, but yeah, you have to go back to the basics. You do. But how many people are just like on the run? I'm going to stop at Starbucks. I'm going to go and just pound through my day. And as soon as I start crashing, I'm going to grab another Starbucks. Sugar. Yep. Yeah. And so that's where I was talking about chemistry. They're doing a spike and a crash and affecting oxygen availability. And so if you learn the basics of what I teach in chemistry, where you're testing your own urine and just, you know, look at it with a refractometer, check your pH, you'll learn, hey, I need to drink more water, or I'm eating the wrong foods, or based upon my pH, these are the foods that contain the mineral base of what I should be eating. And that's where I come from. That's unique information. I just finished a book, and we're trying to work on the finishing touches of it to submit it to publishers and see what we can do to get, we call it health restoration by the numbers. And it's just a pure science-based aspect of looking at the body from not only but from an electrochemical standpoint, and where pioneers have gone before us and had these miraculous, you know, results. And I just kind of tie them together with explaining them from that chemistry concept.
Sure. No, I love it. I'll just use an example from my own life. As you can tell by my logo here, I'm a burger and a beer guy. Obviously, there's a time and a place for that stuff. And one of our big approaches is letting guys know, like, you don't have to give up all the fun in life to achieve optimal health, right? There's a time and a place. If you want a burger and a beer, by all means, get it out of your system and move on, so that you don't go down this rabbit hole of binge eating because you restricted yourself for so long. And so it's very much I can't have it now, but I can have it later mentality. But I'll use myself as an example. I'm a huge IPA guy. Okay. That's like my thing, my jam. But I'll tell you, I've got reactions to the hops. I'm assuming haven't been tested for that, because I'm inflamed. I can feel it. I can feel it from head to toe after, you know, come Sunday or Monday rolls around after I've had a few IPAs. And I know, I'm like, it's a sacrifice that I'm making. I know I'm not going to feel my best tomorrow, but I definitely like that taste. So
that's probably the wheat in the beer versus the hops.
You think it's the wheat?
Yep.
Yeah.
I do porters and dark beers. They don't make me feel that way. Yeah. You know, and most of them are more hoppy, barley and hops, versus bringing the wheats in there. So I stay away from the wheat beer. They make me feel like crap too.
Yeah, I can feel it, man. It's crazy. And I think it's the older that I've gotten, the more I wear I am of it, right? It's like, if I have 3 IPAs on a Friday night, I wake up Saturday and I'm not feeling my best. And I can feel it in my extremities. That's like in my hands. I can feel like I'm inflamed. So, all right. I know we're going short on time. I want to ask you one more question, because the reality is this. You threw out a lot of great, useful information today. And I think that there's a lot of value in this episode. I often say we don't lack for information, we lack for application. So you loaded us up with information, but I want to come again full circle, and I want you to tell the audience out there, because there's a lot of guys listening. There will be a lot of guys listening to this that just don't know where to start. Maybe they're 30, 40, 50, 80, 100 pounds overweight, and they're like, look, I loved what I heard today, but geez, that's a lot of shit to navigate through. So let's go back and what is the most simplistic thing that you could tell somebody out there who is really struggling with consistency, and might be having issues with like some of the stuff that we talked about, like what is a simple, maybe kind of 3 or 5 step process? And we could come back to your 5-step approach, but what would be your best suggestion for somebody out there that's trying to navigate all this wealth of information? How can they start getting on the path to better health, and not necessarily motivation and just taking action and all that? We have all that, but like, what would be your best advice for somebody out there who matches the description that I just said?
Well, we have diets for everything, right? Let's do what's called a qualitarian diet. Let's look at the quality of what you're putting in. So quality in, quality out. So get rid of the processed foods, I would tell people to eliminate wheat from their diet, not necessarily, if it's gluten-free, it's wheat-free. I would tell them to try spelt. I love, there's a Berlin naturalbakery.com. It's a German Amish-based spelt source where you can get spelt pasta, spelt flour. I support them wholeheartedly because it's all organic based, but it still tastes like wheat, but it doesn't make you feel that bloat and stuff. Because I get to go into the aspects of quality and what they do to wheat in our country, including over 90% of it sprayed with Roundup, and then to make it go to seed. So it increases their production of the amount of grain that they get, but we all get residues of glyphosate, and you can get tested and say, oh my God, we all have it, hormone disruptors. So, but qualitarian, wash all your fruits and vegetables the way you do, chop up those fruits and vegetables, try to get into meal planning with quality foods. And you don't know what to do, throw it in a pot and have a soup, because it'll be hearty and you can get some good nutrients that way. And just try to lower that load of the burdens of all the processed things. If you read ingredients on the box and you're like, oh, what is sorbates or whatever else? What are these things? If you don't know what they are, and they're chemicals, and everything that goes into your body says, hey, I can use this, or this is another burden. So clean up your diets, drink pure water, and get rid of the soda pops and the Red Bulls and all of the those type of things, and start with quality. That will change your life. That will change your life. But at the same time, for anybody, you talk about that mental, emotional, is self-awareness.
Huge.
If you're feeling bloaty, ask yourself, what did I do that caused this? You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Let me stop that. So respect and love yourself.
Self-awareness is huge, especially when it comes to nutrition, man, because like we get so caught up in the rat race, and we're so used to, most people, we call them go-to meals in my house. And that's what we teach. Look, identify 3, 4, 5 meals that you can just put on autopilot. They're good. They're healthy for you. They taste good, and you don't mind repeating. When you try to bring in so many moving parts with new recipes and all this, it becomes overwhelming. It can be the world of nutrition is vast. And so I love that you talk about quality, though, because at the end of the day, man, like the more real whole foods that you can eat, the better your body's going to perform. And that's what we teach is fueling your body for performance. So
I agree.
I love it. Well, this has been awesome, man. I know you've already talked about a couple of spots, and we'll get those in the show notes, but where can everybody find you? What's the best source where we can find you and learn more about what you do and anything that you have available for us?
DocMisak.com.
D-O-C?
Yep, DocMisak.com. DocMisak.com. And I've got articles, I've got podcasts, just look at the media tab on there, the links to Vitalometry, the links to my my office, Pittsburgh Alternative Health. It's all there.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll get all that in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to add value to our audience, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
It was great. Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. Have a great day.